have 1 o'clock here Central Time in Illinois, and we are going to go ahead and get started. So, welcome everyone to the science behind popular eating trends. We are so happy to have you listen in on our Health at Home series. This is actually the third lesson of our Health at Home series. And we really thank you for joining us today. And we hope that you can listen in on some of our future lessons as well. We have muted everyone, I believe, but if you could please double check, make sure that you are muted. That will help to prevent feedback and any background noise. But you are also welcome to use the chat box at any time throughout the lesson. You can type in your questions and I will try to answer them via chat box as we kind of go along, but we are going to also have some time at the end for your questions and for your discussion. Please also make sure that you are not using your video. We ask this so that we can save on our bandwidth. We've got quite a few people on the call today, which we are very excited about. But we want to save on our bandwidth and have kind of an enjoyable experience for everyone. So please make sure that you are not using the video. You will also receive an evaluation later today. It will come to your email address. And we, of course, greatly appreciate your honest feedback. And so we really would enjoy seeing some of your responses. So please fill out that evaluation that will be coming later today. Okay. Well, Laura, are you able to hear me okay? And let's just do a quick little mic check for you.
Yes, ma'am. I can hear you loud and clear.
Awesome. Very good. Okay. Well, I am going to go ahead and now introduce Laura as our speaker. So Laura, if you could advance the slide here. Laura Barr Walker is a University of Illinois Extension nutrition and wellness educator serving DuPage, Kane, and Kendall counties. She has been with Extension for over 20 years, and I have to say that sadly, Laura is going to be retiring at the end of the month, and so we are going to miss her expertise so greatly. But you know, she's going out with a bang here with this webinar, so we are very excited for her. So Laura has expertise in general nutrition, food safety, and chronic disease management. She served as chair of the Healthy Aging Division for the Society of Nutrition Education and Behavior. My name is Jenna Smith. I am a University of Illinois Extension nutrition and wellness educator as well, and I serve the McLean, Livingston, and Woodford County area, and I've been with Extension now for about 10 years. So I will be serving as your moderator here today. Laura, I'm going to go ahead now and turn it over to you to go ahead and get started with this presentation.
Thank you, Jenna. Good afternoon, everyone. As you know, there are thousands of different diet plans out there, and dieting is nothing new. But the weight loss industry continues to grow each year. In 2018, it reached $72 billion in revenue. It's a business and a very lucrative one. And what we're doing here today is to kind of look at different diets that are trending, and then also look at evidence-based diet and kind of do a little weight of each one, looking at the pros and cons, and just gaining awareness and increasing knowledge, and then learning, if you don't already know, to identify potential red flags of a diet plan. We're going to look at these 7 eating styles and kind of pull out the good and the evidence-based, and that's kind of what our focus is. The paleo eating plan is where we'll start, and it was kind of introduced or known as caveman, Stone Age, hunter-gatherer, Paleolithic. And the hypothesis behind it is that our bodies have not been able to adapt to a modern diet. And that is what is causing the modern day prevalence of diabetes and heart disease. So we are going to look at kind of the debate. There is that there is truth, and perhaps our fruits and vegetables are different slightly nutritionally, but we know that the fruits and vegetables that we have access to are very, very capable of nourishing our bodies. And we're going to just look at, is it really true? Do we really have to eat this way to decrease risk of diabetes, heart disease, and obesity? So what does the paleo diet look like? If we look at the green light over here, we see some very, very nourishing foods. And we know fresh fruits and vegetables, lean meats, fish, oils, and honey, they're nutritious foods. But if we look at the prohibit side, we also see grains, dairy, legumes. And now these foods are also very nutritious. So the paleo takes these foods out, and then we're looking at, well, if we're going to take these food groups out, how are we going to get the nutrients that these food groups provide in the long run? The paleo does include an 85-15% rule, which is follow it 85% of the time, and 15% of the time you can eat what you want or build in those other food groups. But that allows for about 2 to 3 cheat meals, if you want to call it cheat meals, each week. And that doesn't really make up for the potential nutrient loss if you don't build into your paleo diet the important principles of eating leafy green vegetables and orange vegetables and other very, very nutrient dense foods. So looking at the paleo plate, this is what it would look like. A lot more protein than we're kind of used to looking at, and then fruits and vegetables and water. Again, there is no dairy involved or even dairy supplements like soy milk or something else that would provide the calcium and the vitamin D that the dairy group provides. And then when we look at the USDA My Plate, we just see this balanced kind of eating where we're building in all the food groups that are noted to provide nutrition and doing so in moderation and knowing what are nutrient dense foods, what are these foods that we want to eat every day, and then what are some foods that we may want to eat sometimes for enjoyment. So when we look at paleo, we see the good things that it does. It encourages fruits and vegetables, nuts and seeds, and lean proteins. There's been 4 random control studies that show that there's weight loss and health benefits associated. The cons are that portion sizes are not recommended or even alluded to. And we know that a lot of America and across the world, portion sizes can be a problem. There's a heavy reliance on meat and grass-fed animals, which can be very expensive. So this could exclude a lot of people that really couldn't afford to be on the paleo diet. And how does that mix in with socialization, which really is what eating is about a lot of the times, is eating with our family, eating with our friends, and everybody can't afford to eat paleo. So that could be a little bit of a drawback for those that are doing paleo. There is an overemphasis on fresh foods. And as we know, fresh foods are more expensive than canned or frozen. Some paleo versions will allow for frozen fruits and vegetables, but not all. Whenever there's exclusion of entire food groups, that's kind of a red flag for us nutrition professionals. And as we know, if we take out grains, we're looking at a lack of vitamin B, especially thiamine B1 and riboflavin B2, because these are found in whole grains. And then calcium, again, with a lack of vitamin D and calcium, which are bone building and we need through all stages of life. When we get into restrictive eating, it's really hard to maintain that in the long term. And it also can start to have some eating disorder problems when that's all you're thinking about, what you're going to eat and how it's going to fit. There's an overemphasis on and no relaxation and enjoyment about eating. So when there's that kind of thing going on, sometimes there could be eating disorders or starting eating disorders for those that are vulnerable. There's also a lack of solid evidence, and we'll kind of look at that, what evidence there is on this slide, which these random control studies were less than 6 months, less than 40 participants, which is a very, very small group. And we know that we need like long-term high quality studies. For doing it in the short term, again, to drop some weight, you really have to look at the overall advantage of the diet and if you're able to maintain the diet in the long term, if other people in your family are able to maintain it. And again, the affordability of the paleo diet are kind of some of the drawbacks. The keto diet. The keto is very, very popular right now. It was introduced in the 1920s as an effective treatment for epilepsy for children, really. So if we look at this plate, if most of our plates look like that, I think we would have some problems with cholesterol. We look at the eggs and the bacon and the avocado, which again are all fat, and then a little bit of mushrooms. So I doubt every keto plate is like this, but if they were, this is the kind of plate that could get us in trouble in the long run if that's what we ate all the time. So what the keto diet does really, it changes our metabolism to burn fat instead of carbohydrate. And in order to get that done, everybody's a little different depending on your size, your body size, and your calorie needs. But basically, to get into ketosis, you need to have about 20 to 50 grams of carb per day, which is a very low carbohydrate diet by definition. So then your body transitions kind of into a starvation mode where you start burning fat because there's not enough carbohydrate to get glucose to your brain and to your muscles. So with this fat burning for energy, we get ketones. And this state of ketosis is that our body is now burning fat. We could get in trouble if we get into ketoacidosis. So folks that do choose to go on this diet for weight loss reasons and quick weight loss reasons, like if they needed surgery and they needed to lose weight quickly, or if they were just extremely overweight and rather go into really drastic measures like surgery, if you just went on this diet under the supervision of a doctor and kind of kept track of your ketones, you could really lose weight. But again, in the long run, as a lifestyle, that is what's questionable. It is severe restriction. It does put stress on the body. There's no doubt it puts stress on the body because our body usually runs on glucose, and now we're switching gears to have it burn on fat. So if we're looking at what the diet looks like, so to speak, we can look in the green box and see a lot of fat. That's kind of what it's doing. This diet is made to use fat as energy. So you see things like butter and lard and coconuts and hard cheeses and eggs and red meats and organ meats, and these kind of foods we mostly as health professionals would say eat these sparingly. but in a keto kind of look, there's no bars hold on these foods. And that's where we get questions on what does this look like in the long run for people? When we're looking at the percentage of calories in this diet, we're looking at, again, low carbohydrate, about 5 to 10% of daily calories, high fat, 70 to 80%. So again, we're going for those high fat foods. And generally speaking, when we're looking at fats for a nourishing diet, we're looking for mono unsaturated fats and poly unsaturated fats, not the saturated fats that kind of are focused on in this diet. The prohibitions, if we look at, beer, wine, ice cream, full fat milk, candy, if we take all these out of our diet, no problem. But when we start taking grains and fruits and fruit juices and legumes out of the diet, that's where it gets a little bit questionable. Especially when you think about it, if there's a vegetarian person, they would have a really hard time being on the keto diet. So, what we hear good things about the keto is that people aren't hungry. With a high fat content, we know that fat keeps people satiated. So, when you're satiated, of course, you're not hungry. But we also have to remember that fat has 9 calories per gram, where carbohydrates and proteins have 4 calories per gram. And as nutrition professionals, we really can't take calories out of the picture completely. The random control studies show weight loss and some health benefits that we'll talk about on the next slide. Some of the cons: increases LDL cholesterol. So we know that that's something that when we go to the doctor, they're watching, they're looking, and if we can't have that within a healthy range, then we need to change our diet. And if that doesn't work, then we need to go to medications, because consistently high cholesterol can cause heart disease and stroke in the long run. The keto flu, it's not fun, but people go through it, again, aiming for that weight loss, which so many people are looking for in our culture. The keto flu is a real thing, and people get it in different variations, but what you can expect is some fatigue, brain fog, nausea, headaches, irritability, and constipation. When you think of it, if you're not eating the fruits and the vegetables and the whole grains with fiber, that alone will cause constipation. Any restrictive diet has its liabilities when it comes to being able to adopt it as a lifestyle. And that's what we like to see, is people eating for life, making small changes that help us develop patterns that aren't being on a diet, quote unquote, but it's an eating style. So here is some of the evidence with the keto. Um, as you can see, there was 1,415 participants. That's good, much better than 40. The trials were less than 12 months. And again, more studies are needed to see what how can we use this diet? What is the best tool, and what adaptations can we make to it as people go on it, and then they look at coming off of it by adding these food groups back into their diet. Intermittent fasting is a hot eating plan now, and fasting has its benefits, definitely. Time for fasting to let our digestive systems get a rest, just to kind of quiet the body. And fasting, it has been shown, for centuries, that people have fasted, and there are benefits with fasting. The important thing to know about fasting is that you need to have time frames because we don't want to put our body at risk of not being nourished. So there's different ways of fasting. If you were to go on the internet, you would find probably about 100 of different combinations of how to fast. And we're just going to take really kind of an overview in fasting. So we're looking at alternate day fasting and restricted eating window.
That's what I'm saying.
Can someone, I think I can hear everything now. So we were talking about intermittent fasting, and I think what we want to focus on with this, it's that it's really, if we're going to fast, we have to look at, say, take it week by week, decide on the plan, and at the end of the week, to lose weight, we have to have less calories than we would have had if we weren't fasting. There is kind of a tendency when we restrict, as I mentioned before, when we restrict, food becomes more of a focus. We think about it more, it's in our mind. We're thinking about, well, what are we going to eat next? And, it becomes, I don't want to say an obsession, but it could become an obsession. So what we do want to look at is take it week by week, and at the end of the week, when you look at those calories, you look at, well, did this work for me? Did I fast one day and I was so hungry the next day that I just feasted and I kind of knocked out my calorie, my expected calorie count for the whole week because I was so hungry. When we talk about fasting too, depending on your body, everybody's body is individual. People can eat on fasting days between 100 calories and potentially 500 calories if you're a large person. And we'd really like to see, when fasting, super important, is to drink a lot of fluids, a lot of water. And you can make water more palatable by squeezing some lemon or lime juice in it. Just kind of very, very low calorie drinks like tea or water. And then when you get into tea and coffee, I know for myself, if I don't eat and I have caffeine, I get shaky. So if I were to do a fast, I would not have any caffeinated products because I know how my body reacts to caffeine. So it's something kind of to keep in mind. And again, we're all individuals and we need the same nutrients, and we look at different ways to get those nutrients and to attain a healthy weight. So with alternate day fasting, as you can see, um, there's not 2 days together for the fasting. So there's alternate days where on this one, it would be considered a 5 and 2 kind of fast because you're eating for 5 days and you're fasting for 2. And then this next week, they just switch up the different days. So when you look at this, you have to figure too, what do you have to do on the days, and what days work best if you're going to fast, what days would work best to fast. Another kind of fasting is restricted eating window. So it's really, and this is a little bit of a drawback, they don't really talk about what to eat, but when to eat. So again, most nutrition professionals would focus on those nutrient dense foods on the times that you are eating. So at least having a salad a day and getting those lean proteins and low fat dairy. So nutrient dense foods during the window. And then it could be an 8-hour window or it can be a 4-hour window. So again, each individual has to figure what works for me. I know, again, I can talk for myself. If I had to get all my food in 4 hours, I think I would get a stomach ache because I like to eat small portions of food frequently. So every individual is going to be different. So you kind of take a look at what would work for me based on what I know about my body. And it's really important to become an expert on your body, working with a healthcare team who can help you guide your way from avoiding chronic disease and aging well and being healthy and active as you get older. The pros, again, fasting can be good, effective for weight loss if it's done the right way. If you The good thing about it is that you don't really have to think a lot about, oh, I can't eat this, I can't eat that, I can't do this, I can't do that, because really all foods are allowed. Again, if you want, to give yourself a treat during your non-fasting day, just make sure the portion is right, but there are absolutely no food restrictions. As I mentioned before, hydration is super important, really, with any kind of eating trend. Whenever you're going to eat differently, and you're going, especially if you're going to burn calories differently, staying hydrated is very, very important. The cons, it can be dangerous. If somebody decides they're not going to eat for 3 days or something, that's probably not a, a good idea. If you have chronic health issues, or you're you're an older adult or a teenager, probably not the best thing to do unless really you have a doctor helping you along the way. And a lot of times there are reasons to fast, and there are really important reasons to lose weight, but we just have to make sure that we're doing it in a way that's not going to harm our body in the long run. So these are the to-dos, eating ways, fasting or non-fasting, nutrient dense foods. I mentioned that a few times during this presentation. And then we're looking at those foods that really nourish our bodies, like fruits, vegetables, lean proteins, low fat dairy, and whole grains. So with all that, they contain the vitamins and minerals and so forth. We do want to make sure we're getting that protein, whether it be of a vegetable origin or an animal origin, because we don't want to lose muscle when we're losing weight. We want to burn fat. And when you think of the keto, that's what the keto does. But any diet that you're on, you don't want to start breaking down muscle for energy. You want to have enough carbohydrate to prevent muscle wasting, and enough protein to have muscle building, because any good eating style or health goal will have physical activity as part of it, because eating healthy and moving at least 150 minutes a week are the power twins that help us stay healthy. I mentioned consuming enough fluids, and then just making sure you don't get dehydrated. There was a University of Illinois in Chicago study. It was a 12-week trial. Again, not very many people involved, but as you can see, some of the benefits that they saw in 12 weeks. So most of the time with eating plans, we are looking out for like a decade. That's kind of, after you go on a diet or do an eating style for a while, really the bottom line is, what are you looking like 10 years, at least 10 years from now? Did it really help you, whatever your goal was? Did it help you lose weight? Did it help you get stronger? Did it just completely just help you get better health? And that's kind of the bottom line in what we're looking for. The Whole 30, um, it's set up like a fast. 30 days is really not a diet. And remember, the word diet is kind of getting to be a bad word with health professionals. We want to look at eating styles and eating trends. So this eating style was developed by Melissa and Dallas Hartwig, and it's more indicative of a fast or a detox approach because it only lasts 30 days. The Whole 30 makes claims such as it will improve your relationship with food, and research shows that heavy restriction does not improve relationship with food, improves metabolism, and it cures digestive inflammatory problems. Whenever anybody says they're curing diseases, that's a red flag right there. That's when you really have to dig in and look at the research. So this is when we're looking at the Whole 30. Whenever we take out whole food groups, again, not good. Vegetarians don't have a chance with this because you can't have beans and things that they count on for protein. Taking out dairy, again, calcium, vitamin D. After 30 days, the food groups are reintroduced. So may be helpful if you had an allergy you didn't know about and you took out a lot of food and you started adding it in and you notice, hey, I have this kind of reaction, that it might be helpful in that way. So some of the foods it includes, again, in the green, and then in the red, the prohibits. So what I'm not comfortable with is prohibiting grain, dairy, beans, soy products. Unless you're allergic to soy, soy is a good and nutritious food. If you take out alcohol, salt, sugars, oils, processed foods, that is helpful for anyone that's eating anyway. If you take out all that processed foods, that will be helpful. So the pros: high vegetable content, focus on real foods, and eliminates added sugars. Cons: exclusion of entire food groups. There is a no pain, no gain rhetoric in this plan. You could find it online. And that, again, does not sit well with trained nutrition professionals because we want to encourage people to be healthy. And no pain, no gain isn't the way that we want to go. And where that comes in is that this is a 30-day plan, and if on day 29 you had a bite of rice, you would be, that would be red flag, and you would have to go back to day one. So the Whole 30 could really turn into a Whole 30, 60, 90, and then we're really getting into potential nutrient deficiencies when we're eating this way for 3 months. So that no pain, no gain rhetoric doesn't work for us. It's a short-term approach, and the promise to cure ailments, there's no science behind it. There's no studies. There are testimonies. So anybody can say, I did this and this worked for me. And we can say, well, I'm happy that's working for you. But does it work for 1,000 people? Does it work for 10,000 people? And that's really where the science comes important when we're talking about eating patterns. This diet was rated 38 in the 40 best diets overall. These folks that rated the diets were doctors and dietitians and people on the cutting edge of human nutrition, and they rated the diet. So again, they have the science backing them up. In this, they rated it in 7 categories. The first is, how easy is it to follow, and is it sustainable? What's its ability to produce short-term and long-term weight loss? How nutritionally complete is it? And also the safety and its potential for preventing and managing diabetes and heart disease. So these 7 are like a powerful 7. So to be rated 38 in the 40 out of 40 is really not good. So with all this information, how do we sort through everything? On the front end, again, looking at red flags. I think I've mentioned all 4 of these. and I'll allow you to read them. And whenever we see this, we know that it's really not based on much science. Maybe testimonials, maybe a little science, but not a whole lot of science. So when we're looking at research and we really start to get down to the nitty gritty, we want to look at how many people were studied, um, and how many studies have actually been done, what or who was studied, what kind of people were studied. Were they older adults? Were they people that were sick? And who wrote it? You know, if somebody has any kind of um, benefit associated with the study, that might be, you know, you might want to dig a little deeper and make sure that other science coincides with that. And then where is it published? Is it published in medical journals or dietetic journals? These are the kind of facts that we're looking for when we want to know, is this true and how does it work? So, what is a healthy eating plan? I'm sure a lot of you people on this call know. Um, we've been looking at the dietary guidelines for Americans for many, many years. They are updated every 5 years based on the latest research to help Americans make smart choices about food. My plate is based on the dietary guidelines. So every 5 years, the research is updated, and the professionals and the experts get together and have conversations about next steps in promoting healthy eating. The Mediterranean diet, um, researchers began looking at this in the 1940s when they noticed people of the Mediterranean were living very long and very healthy, and they had much less heart disease than Americans. So, with that being said, we started looking at, well, what's working here? Why is this working for people? And this was ranked the best diet overall according to that world report based on those 7 principles. So this was number 1, and the DASH diet was number 2. And when you look at kind of the basis of this diet, right at the, you know, we used to have the pyramid. This is a Mediterranean diet pyramid. And at the base, you have socialization. Eating is social. Being with people, we need that. So again, when we have eating patterns that are very restrictive and not everybody can adapt to them, that kind of takes the joy on some of the socialization and eating in general. We look at the actual foods in the Mediterranean diet and we see whole grains, we see olive oil and monounsaturated fat, and they have lots of olive groves there, so it's easy for them to get that olive oil. But many different types and different colors of fruits and vegetables. Their protein sources tend to be fish because they have the Mediterranean Sea there, and it's easy to fish and get the protein source that you need right there. And then you see the categories that are a little bit less, like the eggs and the cheese and the meats and the sweets. So again, an eating style that works. There's a there is a large body of evidence with the Mediterranean diet. What it's showed to increase lifespan and lower incidence of chronic disease. So if you look at these numbers, um, 4 million subjects followed for 4 to 8 years. 1.5 million subjects followed for 3 to 18 years. This is what we're talking about, a large body of evidence. The DASH eating plan was set up for people that had high blood pressure. So it's similar in a lot of ways to the Mediterranean diet, but there's absolutely no added salt. And that this is like step one. If you go to the doc and you have high blood pressure, one of the first things to do is like lose the salt. So we look at ways to do that, cooking with herbs and spices. We look at what the DASH eating plan is like. And again, lots of fruits and vegetables, lean protein like fish, poultry, legumes, nuts. And then the DASH eating plan limits red meat and lots of sweets and added sugars and added fats that we find in processed foods. The DASH eating plan is high in nutrients that are crucial for health, and it's low in substances that are not good for health if we have problems with cholesterol. So the only way that you know you have problems with cholesterol is to get a blood draw. And if you go to your doctor and you find out that your cholesterol and triglycerides are high, then you know for sure you have some work to do, either by lifestyle, which is the first line measure is to get it done with lifestyle, and then potentially medications so you don't end up with heart disease or stroke. Studies have shown that blood pressure can be reduced in 2 weeks, and that systolic blood pressure could drop by 7 to 12 points. So, again, healthy eating looks different to everyone because it reflects personal preferences, values, tradition, culture, and budget. For a more personalized diet, consider making an appointment with a registered dietitian. It's especially important if you're dealing with a chronic disease. However, you get to that diet that works for you, where you're a healthy weight, where you go to the doctor and everything, your blood pressure is good, all all your biomarkers are good, you know that you've achieved a, a health for yourself, and to stick with that plan, and also to just enjoy your food, having the healthy diet. And again, I know it's very simple, but I say it to so many different groups I speak with, is to have everyday foods and then sometime foods looking like ice cream, cake, whatever it is to celebrate a birthday or a special occasion. That's important, to enjoy our food. But the real reason that we eat is to nourish our body. And we get that eating plan that does that, gets us in a good place along with exercise. And we know that we have some success there. At this point, I am not seeing any chat. I know Jenna's been attending the chat. So if anybody has any other questions, we would love to answer them. Please fill out the evaluation. It really helps us get an idea of the impact that we're making and how we can improve. I appreciate you all taking time out of your day to come and spend some time with us here from University of Illinois Extension.
Yes, thank you, Laura. There's been a lot of good conversations happening here in the chat box. One that has not been answered yet, Laura, says, what does 2,300 milligrams a day look like in terms of measures that we are used to? So in terms of teaspoons, for instance, which is what we would be most used to, what would that 2,300 milligrams be?
That is about a teaspoon. A little bit less than a teaspoon of sodium is the recommendation. If you have a chronic disease like high blood pressure, potentially heart disease, depending, on your biomarkers, that would be reduced to 1,500 milligrams.
Very, very good. Okay. I just wanted to also just say one comment that someone had said one of my biggest problems with the Whole 30 diet is that I believe it puts too much emphasis on identifying food sensitivities. This can lead to unnecessary stress, anxiety, confusion, and restriction. Um, Too many people are kind of too quick to blame every ailment on food that they are consuming, but there are many factors that play into a lot of perceived digestive distress. So identifying food allergies or sensitivities must be done under supervision of trained medical professionals like registered dietitians, medical doctors. I just think that was it's a good comment as well too, in terms of that Whole 30 diet. Is there anything else that you wanted to kind of say to that then, Laura?
I absolutely agree with that statement. The only way that you really know about food allergies, sensitivities is to work with a healthcare professional.
Very good, very good. And I do want to also point out one other comment that I thought is really good, because it is something that I think a lot of people maybe misunderstand, that the Mediterranean diet does not have to be Italian in flavor. And that is so true. I like to follow kind of more of a Mediterranean eating plan. But I will just admit I do not like olives, and so that is not something I'm going to enjoy. But I think that was a good comment as well.
Yes, thank you for sharing.
Absolutely. Okay, let's see. One other one that I think I just missed. Are there any figures about the percentage of American adults that follow the My Plate recommendations? Do you know, Laura? I haven't had a chance to look that up yet to see if there are any numbers as far as the percentage of American adults that actually follow the My Plate recommendations.
That is an excellent question, and I have to say, if you would just identify yourself via email, we as a team, the nutrition and wellness team from University of Illinois Extension, can do some research on that and get back to you. Right now, I do not have that off the top of my head or in my notes.
The only thing that I can speak to is that I do know that only about 1 in 10 American adults get the recommended amount of fruit and vegetables. So that, of course, is something that we really need to work towards is getting more of those fruits and vegetables in each day. 1 out of 10 is simply just not enough. So I do know we need to do a lot better at following the My Plate in terms of those fruits and vegetables in particular, and how those are supposed to cover half the plate and how they are just not, we're not quite there yet. But yes, Laura, we can definitely send the kind of that question, or the answer to that question, through our email, and maybe we can just do that as we send out the evaluation as well. Okay, looking here, let's see. What are your thoughts on intuitive eating? Do you want to go ahead and answer that question, Laura? Any thoughts on basically, intuitive eating?
I think intuitive eating works for me. And I have to say that my education and my experience with food um, is very, very helpful in using intuitive eating, like eating when you're hungry, stopping when you're satiated, not waiting until you're full. So I think intuitive eating has a place, but I also think that nutrition education has a place, and there should be a balance with really knowing what works based on science and then listening to your own body and figuring out what works for you as far as timing of meals, the types of fruits and vegetables you like, and other personal kind of decisions. Would you like to add anything, Jenna?
Well, I would just say as well, that I kind of like to take that non-diet approach. I feel like a lot of times as we focus so much on this whole diet approach, and when we start restricting our foods so much, it becomes such a focus, I think, in our minds that that is typically something that, as we are always thinking then about food and always thinking about food and this diet that we might be on, that can, that can maybe do some kind of more damage, so to speak, in terms of, mentally thinking about food, and then it's always on your mind, and you're more likely to maybe kind of fall into those traps of overeating. So I just think that, a lot of times, like with what Laura has said, is that, if we can kind of be more intuitive in terms of listening to our bodies and listening to what our bodies truly really need, I think it can be certainly a good approach. Okay. Let's see. I've heard a lot of opinions on drinking milk as an adult. Many people say that adults were not meant to drink milk and see dairy sensitivities due to our emphasis on drinking milk. So, what is your opinion on that, Laura?
I drink milk, and I drink different kinds. I like both low fat cow's milk and soy milk. I did have I did have low bone density, so I had to make sure that in my diet I am getting enough calcium and vitamin D. I don't have any GI distress with milk. Um, so for me personally, I think it's a really good source of calcium and vitamin D. But I also respect the fact that other folks may not want to drink milk, or have a view that it is only for small mammals, if you will. And with that being said, I would say if that is how you view it, then not having milk is okay, but you just have to make sure that you have adequate calcium and vitamin D in your diet to keep bones strong throughout the lifetime.
Yes, and I would just echo that. Milk is something, it's very, very nutritious, and it's very hard to find foods or beverages that really mimic milk. Even a lot of the, alternative milks, maybe just they're not always quite up to par in terms of their nutrients that they offer. So if you are not drinking milk due to different reasons, then I think it's just going to be more and more important to make sure that you do focus, especially on those nutrients that might be missing in your diet, and try to get them in other ways, calcium, vitamin D, especially. Okay, well, we still have a few more minutes, so we're going to just kind of keep on going with some of these questions as well here. So let's see. It says, I read a few weeks ago that frozen pizza supplies were low. This is just kind of an interesting one. Lunch meat and other meat may become scarce since meat processing plants are shutting down to COVID hitting their employees. So we certainly are in a very different time right now, where we are seeing a lot of supplies just kind of low as well too. And a lot of the convenience type foods that people are migrating to, those foods may not be in supply as much as maybe some of the others as well too. So I don't know, Laura, if you want to talk a little bit, or anything in terms of kind of what we are seeing right now with COVID-19. There's a lot of questions in terms of, what should we be eating, and also even, as those are sick with COVID-19.
Yes, I know. I've been in the stores and I've seen cans of tuna limited. I'm not one to eat processed meats, so if those are going, I guess, I mean, they have a long shelf life, and based on your tastes and your budget and what your family likes to eat, if that's something that you want, um, sure, it's good to have a small supply. I think it's really, and this isn't nutrition, I think it's really important to note, um, just resisting hoarding. I was looking for ibuprofen on the shelf for a few trips to the store, and then I went to this one store and there were three, excuse me, not ibuprofen, Tylenol. Um, there were three bottles left, and so I could have taken all three, but I just thought, you know what? I don't want to hoard. I only need one. It'll probably last me for a month. And if I get the virus, that's kind of the recommendation, is to take Tylenol out of any other medicine. I usually go to the ibuprofen. That's why I said it, but I know that I've heard that Tylenol is the fever reducer and the kind of the treatment for COVID-19. So I would just say, get what you need, get what you're comfortable with. But again, the sadness that when some people, just remember there's people behind you looking for the same item.
Yes, and I have posted in the chat box some COVID-19 resources from University of Illinois Extension. We have been working very hard at providing a lot of resources in terms of COVID-19. And so hopefully you can check those out. Please do so. Please look through all of those. There's a lot of information in terms of what to do with leftovers that you might have if you're cooking kind of bigger meals. There's a lot of information on how to store, foods, freezers. Can you freeze, milk? Can you freeze bread? So those are a lot of questions that are being answered, in that kind of COVID-19 resource area. So please check that out. We know too, as I saw a question on, how, do we need to worry about washing our produce? And so, yes, with fruits and vegetables, it's really just like always. We do need to wash those with cool running water before you eat them. And so do make sure you do wash those. You do not need to use any other, soaps or chemicals or anything like that. Just simply washing it with water is going to be the best. And of course, before eating, always wash your hands with soap and water for 20 seconds. That's always going to be very important as well. So, so with that, I think we've got just a couple more minutes here. And so one more question that I wanted to take. It says, what do you think about Weight Watchers? Laura, do you want to comment on Weight Watchers and your thoughts for that?
I think people have a lot of success with Weight Watchers. I think that they promote healthy eating, and I think the accountability of a group is very, very helpful with weight loss. I've never personally had an experience with it. I mostly know people that have gone to Weight Watchers and have had success. I also know people that have gone to Weight Watchers and then just kind of went away from it. But it seems to be helpful for weight loss. And Jenna, would you like to add anything?
No, I think that's what you said is very true. I think Weight Watchers can be a very good start to a lifestyle of healthy eating, and that's really what we want to try to push. Is not necessarily these diets, but just a simple approach to healthy eating and a healthy lifestyle. And I think Weight Watchers certainly can do that. So Laura, if you want to go ahead and advance the slide, we do want to just let you know that we do have a texting program called Extending Wellness. So if you would like to sign up for that, there is information there for you to be able to do that. We do not share your phone numbers at any time. However, you do get text messages about 1 to 2 times per week, and it has all sorts of information regarding healthy eating, financing, family issues, lots of great information there. If you want to advance the slide again, we also wanted to let you know that we do have more webinars coming up. So please join us for our next one. This one is Every Step Counts, getting the most out of your activity trackers. So I'm very excited about that one. That is coming up Wednesday, April 29th. and that is from 1 to 2 p.m. Central Time. And I do apologize for all of those who were on Eastern Time or even other times that maybe came on a little early. Hopefully we didn't miss anybody if they're coming on late. But these webinars are in Central Time, so just please make note of that. Okay, I think that is all that we have here today. We will be sending you an evaluation, of course. We ask that you please try to respond to that. And we also will be recording. We have recorded this webinar, and we will be posting that on our YouTube channel. And we will plan to also email that out once it is available so that everybody can have that. Okay, I think that's it. Laura, do you have anything else?
No, I think we covered our main points. And again, I just want to thank you all for joining University of Illinois Extension. And we hope you come back for our coming up webinars.
Very good. Thank you so much, everyone. Have a wonderful day.
Thank you for tuning into CUI's TV. We hope you enjoyed the show. This video can be accessed anytime on youtube.com. In the YouTube search bar, type in UPTV6 and look for their microphone logo. We hope you will join us again next week for more local, engaging content designed specifically for Champaign County older adults. Take care and stay safe.